They said it was just another graduation, another sea of caps and gowns, another day where names would be called and applause would fill the air. But for one mother sitting quietly near the middle of the crowded auditorium, this was not just another day. This was the day her son, her only child, would walk across that stage and hold the diploma he had worked so hard to earn. The day she had promised herself nothing would come between them. No missions, no deployments, no calls from HQ. Not today. Not now. Not in this sacred moment she had waited 18 long years to see. And yet, as fate often does with those who wear the uniform, the test came at the very instant her heart was most full, and the choice she would be forced to make would echo louder than the applause of the audience. If you agree that no parent, especially those who serve their country, should ever have to choose between their child's milestones and the call of duty, then like and subscribe, because this story will stay with you long after the last words are spoken. The lights dimmed slightly in the gymnasium, the chatter of hundreds of families filling the space with warmth, and she found herself lost for a moment, eyes fixed on the stage where the banners of the school's mascot hung proudly, the same gym where she had cheered at basketball games, where she had stood shoulder to shoulder with other parents at PTA meetings. Except today felt different, because she wasn't here as Major in the United States military. She wasn't here as the woman with the sharp salute and the unreadable face. She was here as a mother, plain and simple, a mother with trembling hands that held onto the program booklet as if it were her anchor, a mother who had memorized exactly which line her son's name would be called in, a mother whose heart leapt every time she thought of his smile. For weeks she had counted down to this day, her uniform pressed and stored away, her phone silenced in her bag, her heart fully committed to being present. But life, as it had so many times before, had other plans. The buzz came first, faint against the folded fabric of her dress pocket, and she thought nothing of it. Just another message, maybe another parent texting about where they were sitting, but then it buzzed again, harder this time, insistent, a vibration that seemed to shake not just her phone, but her entire chest. She reached in slowly, pulling it out, the glow of the screen cutting through the dim auditorium, and her stomach sank at the sight. No ordinary number, no casual text, but a secure line with codes she recognized instantly, the kind of code you never ignore, the kind of code that meant something was wrong, very wrong. Her son's row was already standing, their black gowns swaying as they prepared to walk toward the stage, his face shining as he adjusted the tassel on his cap. Unaware of the storm building, just a few rows away. She locked eyes on him, drinking in every detail, the way his sneakers peeked from beneath the gown, the way he stood a little taller than the boy she had hugged goodbye that morning, the way he seemed so ready for the world. And in that moment, she wanted nothing more than to shut the phone off, to pretend it wasn't real, to hold on to this day with both hands and never let it slip. But the phone buzzed again, the third time, a vibration that demanded attention, and when she swiped the screen open, her blood ran cold. Major, emergency evacuation directive. Immediate. The words glared back at her like an order carved into stone, and for the first time in years, she felt utterly powerless. The narrator's voice trembles with her conflict. How do you balance the oath you swore to your country with the promises you whispered to your child? Her throat tightened, the air in the auditorium suddenly heavier, her ears ringing as though she were back on deployment, hearing the rush of commands through a headset. And yet here she was, in a folding chair surrounded by cheering families, living two lives at once. One is a mother about to watch her son's proudest moment. The other is a soldier summoned once more to the battlefield of duty. She pressed the phone tight against her palm, as if by holding it still she could hold time still, her eyes darting between the glowing words, and her son, now stepping closer to the stage, his row moving in rhythm, the applause rising, the names being read one by one. Every instinct told her to rise, to leave, to find a quiet place and respond. But her heart screamed to stay, to sit, to wait until his name was called, to give him the one thing she had promised she could give, her presence. Tears welled at the edges of her eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let the moment blur, refusing to let him see weakness. She thought of all the times she had been gone, birthdays missed, games unattended, nights when he had asked why she couldn't tuck him in, and how she had always said, "Next time. I'll be there next time." And now next time was here, and so was the call. The world narrowed to 2 points of light, her son stepping closer to the microphone, and the phone burning in her hand with orders that could not be ignored. The narrator's voice softens, carrying the weight of her heart. This was the test she had never trained for, the battle she had never expected, the war between love and duty, fought not on foreign soil but in the quiet rows of a high school gym. She gripped the edges of her seat, her knuckles white, every second feeling like an eternity, the sound of applause echoing like distant thunder, her chest rising and falling with rapid breaths as she tried to decide. Would she stand and leave before his name was called? Or would she stay just long enough to see his face light up with pride, even if it meant disobeying the most urgent of directives? The answer, she knew, would come not from her rank, not from her training, but from the deepest corner of her soul as a mother. Her fingers hovered over the glowing screen, the words Major, Emergency Evacuation Directive, immediate, searing themselves into her mind. Louder than the announcer's voice calling names, louder than the roar of applause that surged with every proud student stepping across the stage. And for a moment, she sat frozen, torn between two worlds that had collided with brutal precision in this single instant. The world where she was mom, clutching tissues in her purse for the tears she knew would come, and the world where she was major, trained, disciplined, ready to move at the sound of urgency. And the more she stared at the phone, the more her heart fractured, because she knew what those words meant. They didn't send an evacuation directive unless something catastrophic was unfolding, something where lives were dangling by a thread, where her expertise was not optional but vital. And yet right in front of her, framed by the spotlight of the stage, was her son, stepping closer, his row advancing, his smile unshaken, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching, always searching for her face. And she realized with a knife-like twist that if she moved now, if she answered, if she slipped out of her seat and disappeared, his memory of this day would not be joy but absence, not her applause but her empty chair, and the thought crushed her chest until it ached. She pressed the phone against her thigh, hiding it, as if concealing it from view might buy her time, might silence the command, but it buzzed again, a low, insistent hum that rattled her bones. And she swore for the briefest second the sound was so loud others could hear it. But the crowd was too caught in their celebration to notice the silent war raging in one mother's seat. She drew in a shaky breath, her mind racing back to her oath, to the day she raised her right hand and swore to protect, to serve, to answer without hesitation, to the moments on deployments when her quick decision had saved lives. And yet here, now, hesitation chained her body to the chair, her duty colliding with motherhood in a way no training could prepare her for. And as the announcer's voice rolled through the alphabet, drawing ever closer to her son's name, she felt the minutes slipping, like sand through her fingers. She thought of him as a boy, the scraped knees, the soccer games, the time he had cried when she missed his school play because her unit had been called in last minute, the way he had looked at her then, a mix of disappointment and understanding that no child should ever have to hold. And she remembered promising herself she would never let him feel that again, never on something as monumental as this. But promises made in quiet moments often shattered in the face of duty, and now she sat, drowning in the weight of that truth. The phone lit again, a direct call this time, the kind that bypassed everything, and her breath caught as she saw the ID code. Her commanding officer himself, not a messenger, not a desk sergeant, but the one man who never called unless the world was on fire. And her hands trembled as she lifted the phone slightly, debating, her thumb hovering over accept, her pulse pounding like a drum in her ears. Around her, families clapped and cheered, tears flowing, cameras flashing, a chorus of joy and pride filling the space. But inside her chest it was only silence, a suffocating silence filled with the question, stay or go. Her son's row reached the stairs, one by one ascending toward the stage, the announcer's voice echoing each name into the rafters, and she realized she had seconds left, seconds before his name would ring out, seconds before he would look for her in the crowd, expecting to see her standing, clapping, crying with pride. And the thought of him scanning the audience only to find her seat empty tore something primal in her. But still the phone buzzed, relentless, merciless, and she closed her eyes, whispering a prayer she hadn't spoken in years, asking for clarity, for strength, for forgiveness if she failed one. sight of her life in the act of serving the other. When she opened her eyes, she caught sight of him, her boy, her almost grown man, standing at the edge of the stage, his hand adjusting his cap, his posture straight. And in that second she saw not just her son, but the reflection of herself, the quiet strength he had inherited, the resilience forged in all the years of sacrifice. And it broke her because she knew he deserved her presence as much as her country deserved her service. She rose halfway from her seat, torn, her body angled toward the exit, even as her eyes clung desperately to him. And the voice in her ears screamed the directive once more, urgent, commanding, reminding her that lives depended on her choice. But the voice in her heart whispered his name, the one she had whispered into his crib, the one she had called across soccer fields, the one she had spoken each night before bed when deployments kept her oceans away. The announcer cleared his throat, adjusted his microphone, and then came the words she both longed for and dreaded. Her son's name, spoken loud, clear, filling the gym with triumph. The audience erupted in applause, his classmates cheered, and he stepped forward, crossing the stage, pride radiating off him, his eyes searching for her. And in that moment, she had to decide, answer the call of the world or the call of her child. The sound of his name still echoed in the rafters, rolling like thunder over the crowd, and she felt it strike her chest with both pride and agony, because at the very moment she should have been on her feet cheering, her phone pulsed in her palm like a live grenade, demanding she abandon the moment, demanding she turn her back, and yet she couldn't. Her eyes locked onto him as he stepped forward, chin high, gown flowing around his ankles, and in that stride she saw not just a boy but a man, forged from every sacrifice, every deployment, every lonely night where she had whispered, "I'll be back soon." And as he reached the center of the stage, diploma extended toward him, the entire gym erupting in claps and whistles. He scanned the audience until his eyes found her, their connection instant, and time froze. She stood halfway out of her chair, torn between leaving and staying, and in that suspended heartbeat, she saw something extraordinary in his gaze. Not confusion, not anger, but understanding. As if somehow he already knew. As if he had spent 18 years learning the language of sacrifice simply by being her son, and now he was speaking it back to her without words. He gave her the smallest nod, subtle, firm, the kind of gesture a soldier gives when he accepts an order. But in this case, it wasn't obedience. It was permission, a gift of grace from a son to a mother, telling her without sound, "It's okay, Mom. I know. Go do what you have to do." And that single nod broke her more than any battlefield ever could. She pressed her lips together, holding back tears, raising her hand in the faintest of salutes, so small that only he would see it, a silent message of pride, of love, of apology all woven into one. And when he returned the gesture with just a half smile, she knew their bond was stronger than this impossible choice. The phone buzzed again, relentless, and this time she answered, her voice low, steady despite the storm inside her. "This is Major. I'm en route." She slid from her chair, her body trembling, her heart shattering with every step toward the exit, the cheers still roaring behind her as her son walked proudly across the stage. And though she couldn't hear his name announced again, though she couldn't hear the principal shake his hand or the classmates cheer his success, she carried the image of his nod, that silent exchange, as if it were carved in stone. The crowd swallowed her absence, no one noticing the lone chair left empty. But for her son it wasn't absence. It was presence in a different form, the presence of a mother who had taught him that service sometimes means sacrifice, that love sometimes means letting go. And though he would tuck away the ache of her missing the applause, he would also carry the pride of knowing she walked out not because she didn't care, but because she cared for more people than herself, because she bore the impossible weight of being both soldier and mother. Outside, the sunlight was blinding as she stepped from the gym into the open air, phone still pressed to her ear as orders flowed into her, coordinates, names, urgency spilling through the line. But underneath every word, she carried the sound of the audience cheering for her son, a memory she replayed like a song in her heart, proof that even when the world demanded her strength, she had still given him her love in the only way she could. The narrator's voice slows, weighted with emotion. She gave her country her courage. He gave his mother his understanding. And together, they showed what sacrifice truly looks like, not just on the battlefield, but in the quietest, most sacred moments of family life. And as the camera fades from the image of a mother striding toward duty to a son holding his diploma high, smiling through tears, the story lingers as a reminder to us all that behind every uniform is a family, and behind every salute is a sacrifice too heavy for one person to carry alone. If you honor the families who stand as silently brave as the soldiers themselves, make sure to like and subscribe, because these are the stories the world must never forget.